Hello and welcome to another edition of Moments with MindLeaps. My name is Jesse Hawks. I am the USA Program Director for MindLeaps. I am thrilled to be here today with our guest, Shaun Pennington. Shaun is in the Virgin Islands in St. Thomas. Hello, Shaun.
Hi.
We had a few technical difficulties, but we are able to be with you live. Hello, everyone. Perhaps some of your friends from Rwanda are going to be joining Shaun. And those on the other end here, I may be speaking a little bit louder than usual so that Shaun can hear me behind me. And I wanted to introduce you guys to Shaun Pennington, who is a writer, a journalist, a publisher, and a humanity mobilizer. In 1998, 1999, Shaun founded the Virgin Islands Source, the VI Source, which is the Virgin Islands' first and only daily internet-only newspaper of general circulation. So that's an internet-only newspaper back in 1999, way before high-speed internet. So she had the foresight, and it has gone for 20 years. It has over 200,000 loyal and distinct readers per month. And as publisher emeritus, because Shaun has sold the paper, she continues to write for the paper. And from subjects like environmental protection to rethinking labor in a time of upheaval. Shaun is a friend of Rwanda's and has been to Rwanda several times. And she recently wrote several articles about Rwanda. She had press credentials at the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting recently, which was a big deal for Rwanda to host. And Shaun was there. And she also visited MindLeaps. And she just launched today an article about her experience at MindLeaps, which I encourage everybody to seek out on VI Source. We will find a way to put the link in. And Shaun has spent over 40 years in the U.S. Virgin Islands, having been born in Binghamton, New York, and growing up on the East Coast. She was awarded Person of the Year Award by the St. Thomas Rotary, and she also has been awarded Family Resource Center's 2017 Peacemaker Award. I could go on and on. Shaun and I first met through our work in Rwanda. Shaun, it's wonderful to be with you here today. Thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule down there. You're writing 5 articles about Rwanda, is that correct?
Probably more than that. There's a lot of things about Rwanda that I think people here could relate to, but also, I'm a finger wagger as a journalist, but also as a kind of opinionated editor type person. And as you well know, I fell in love with Rwanda in 2008 on my first trip. So yeah, there's 5 ready from my last trip, but there may be more.
Wonderful. Well, you write beautifully. And I just want to, step back a little bit and ask you, so Shaun, how did you get involved in the field of journalism and down in the Virgin Islands?
It was my dream in life to be a journalist, and things, as we know, don't always go the way we plan. And in early 1990s, I ended up taking a journalism course at the university here with a man named Frank Jordan, who had been the dean of the School of Communications at American University, the place I really wanted to go to school and didn't get a chance to do. Anyway, fast forward a few years, and I've been in the advertising business for about 10 years, and which you need to do in order to have a newspaper. And the opportunity arose because 2 things happened. A man moved from Nebraska to the Virgin Islands. There was actually a Wall Street Journal article about him, and thought he was going to buy it all up. And when he bought the newspaper, along with the cable TV company, the phone company, and a bank, and several other things, and I'll leave the rest of it so I don't get sued for libel again. I won, by the way. I was like screaming at people, what are we going to do? We can't have this. And somebody, the former editor of the then daily newspaper here, which was owned by Gannett when he bought it, came to me with this opportunity. She said, I've got a template for an internet newspaper, let's do it. And I said, are you crazy? I was 49 at the time. I said, I don't want to work that hard. She said, oh, you won't have to work that hard. So anyway.
Wow.
And it's been the joy of my life, and I'm very proud of it. And I'm very proud of the young people who are running it now, who worked for the source for many, many, many years. And when it was sold, they continued and, are now in the positions of running it. And it's great.
Wonderful. Wow. Kudos to you, Shaun, and what a reminder that, we can always take on huge projects as we go through life. Fantastic. And the fact that you're still writing for them is absolutely wonderful. I wanted to know a little bit more about what are maybe two things that you've seen really change, 2 or 3 things that you've really changed about the Virgin Islands over the last 20 years that you've been covering the territory.
Well, in the 20 years that I've been covering it, the changes have not been quite as dramatic as in the 40 years that I've been living here. And a lot of it is a much larger influx of cruise ships and day visitors as opposed to overnight visitors. But the thing is, and it's one of the reasons I started the paper, just before I started the paper, we went through Hurricane Marilyn in 1995. In 1989, we went through Hugo. And when we went through Hugo, I happened to be in the States. And nobody knew what was happening here because the minute that it went from here to South Carolina, it was as if we didn't exist anymore. And that was not okay with me. And my best friend was living here, and I didn't hear from her for 3 weeks. So the fact that, when the internet came about, we could report on these things. So that's, the internet itself has been a huge change in the 20 years that we were doing it. And that we've been to 3 years that we've been doing it. We launched on January 15th, St. Thomas Stores, 1999. And so the internet has really opened things up. But we had, in 2017, we had 2 more back-to-back Category 5 hurricanes, which we're still reeling from the damage from that and trying to rebuild. We've still got 2 major hotels that aren't open. So, what's happened since then? Climate change in a very kind of much more dramatic way. I think that because of the internet, we've become more connected to the rest of the world, and that's a big advantage for us. But I assume we're going to be honest here. We've also seen a large change in who our residents are, and I just did a series about that on housing because we're tiny, and St. John alone has probably one of the highest real estate values per acre in the world, and that doesn't leave a lot of room for middle-income people, much less people on the margins.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Shaun. And this is reminding me of the place that I'm going to talk about next, which is Rwanda, which is a country that has rebuilt itself, and the internet has been so important to Rwanda, laying the foundation for using the internet in the country. We can talk a little bit more about what you've seen in Rwanda. Can you tell us a little bit about your first trip to Rwanda? How did you come to go to Rwanda in the first place?
Someone that we knew had gone to Rwanda. Gosh, I'm trying to remember the name. It was an international women's organization that she got involved in. I can't remember the name of it. Peace Rosage. I don't know if you know her, but anyway, she was a photographer. She went to Rwanda. She met this woman who was involved with the women's organization Peace, and Peace was raising her niece by herself. She was she had been orphaned, and this photographer was friends with a school teacher here in one of the public high schools, and the kids raised money to put this young girl in school, in boarding school in Rwanda. And after doing that for a couple of years, they said they wanted to go to Rwanda and meet her. So we raised the money, and we put out applications for kids to complete, and we took, I think it was 12 the first time we went in 2008, along with our First Lady of the Virgin Islands and a couple of other adults, chaperones. And that's how we came to go to Rwanda. And we went with the idea of doing public service, but also with the idea of what divisiveness can do to a population in the most horrifying of ways, referencing 1994 Tutsi genocide. So we wanted our kids to see what that kind of manipulation and, may I say, colonialism and the things that work for dominant cultures to keep people separated. I wanted to see what that looked like in reality.
Can you describe a little bit the situation in the Virgin Islands vis-a-vis this issue of divisionism? Is there a challenge there? Is this something that you wanted the children there and the young people, the visitors, to learn so that they could take the message back home?
I think one of the challenges of the Virgin Islands is that there's three basic, the largest islands. There's a smattering of smaller islands, including Water Island. But the three major islands, St. Thomas, St. John, and St. Croix, are not even in St. Thomas and St. John are not even in the same geological chain as St. Croix. And they're very different cultures in some ways, and economically they're different. The capital is on St. Thomas, and so there are challenges in terms of, I have to be careful, competition.
Mm-hmm.
And
mm-hmm.
competition is one thing. Divisiveness is something else.
Mm-hmm.
Anger, blame, all of those things. And they happen everywhere. I mean, look what's going on in the United States right now.
Yeah, thank you for contextualizing that idea of divisionism. I mean, clearly resources, people get pitted against each other or pit themselves against each other often for competition reasons. And I think it's good to contextualize it in that way.
Yeah.
And so would you say that in the Virgin Islands, the culture, the society, does it seem like parts of the United States? Does it seem like parts of the Caribbean? Does it seem like other places you've been, or is it its own unique environment and culture and society?
It is completely unique in all the world. And one of the reasons I wanted to go to CHOGM, the Commonwealth Head of Government meeting, is that 18 of those 54 Commonwealth countries are our neighbors. St. Lucia, Dominica, we share the same geology and the same environment, we're Caribbean, but as a U.S. territory since 1917, when the U.S. bought the territory from Denmark, we're completely different. And that was, just the debt that these other nations are in from storms and other things, infrastructure rebuilds, all of that stuff. We don't suffer that so much because we get a lot of federal money. A large part of our annual budget is from the United States. Some of that's good. Some of it creates an atmosphere of I don't want to say apathy, although there's a certain
like a reliance,
kind of passivity.
Mm-hmm.
Because, it's unfortunate because we've come to rely on the United States federal dollars, and in many cases we don't have the capacity to properly execute the grants and the different things that come in, and we lose a lot of it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's but even we are different, but at the end of the day, and that's the whole point with Rwanda or any place else, we all come from one place. We're the same. It's one world, and that's I've never understood borders, but that's another story.
Yeah. Well, so Shaun, since you've been going to Rwanda, I imagine you've seen the country change since 2000 and what was the first year? 2008?
2008, and my last trip before this one was 2011.
So what were some of the main things that you noticed about Rwanda that had changed?
Well, I mean, kind of, I remember driving at night in Rwanda, and trying not to drive at night because there were no street lights, a lot of, still...
This is back in 2008?
Back in 2008. And, now, I mean, we went out to Kayonza, and there's street lights, the roads are paved. I mean, there's been a lot of progress in that way. I mean, and the thing I was really struck by on this trip, it's Akagera is a perfect example. We went to Akagera in 2008, and
it's a game park.
The game park, right? National park. The kids had a blast. I mean, it was, we saw giraffes and a few things. I didn't see lions. I'm not gonna lie. I didn't see lions and leopards, but if we'd stayed past dusk, we would have. And it was incredible how many, and they restocked the park. So, there's just been an incredible amount of progress in the right way. And that's the thing. The thing I appreciated about this trip was I can't pronounce it, but there was a gray-crowned crane sanctuary in the middle of the city, and it had just opened when my friend Peter took me there, and just that kind of sensible development relative to green space, room to breathe. There's so much consciousness about the environment.
Wonderful. Well, I look forward to going back. I haven't been back since 2015. And so, Shaun, you wrote a couple of articles. You're coming out with 5, maybe more. One of them is about MindLeaps, and we were so thrilled that you were able to go and cover what we're doing in Kigali. But some of the others, I read the first and second one. The second one was about the experience of, I think, African American expatriates, essentially, living in Rwanda. Is that correct? And how did you come to that story?
Well, my friend Colette, my Rwandan twin, as I refer to her, and I had to laugh because someone said to me the other day, "I didn't know you had a twin." I was like, no, she's my soul twin.
Yeah.
But when we were talking about me coming, I almost said home, because in many ways Rwanda feels like home to me. She said, you need to meet some of the people, and they call themselves refugees from the United States. And so I did a search, and that's how I ended up at Ikawa Cafe, because there was an article about the Mohammeds who started it just a year and a half ago. But that was fascinating to me, and so I met them and met several other expats, if you will, and it's interesting because our connection here in the Virgin Islands is with Ghana, and because that's where the slave trade on the west coast of Africa. That's where a lot of those slave ships came from. That are the ancestors of our people, and so it was interesting to meet people who've been living in Ghana for a while and discovered Rwanda, and looked like they're there for have started organizations, but also just the idea as someone born and raised in the United States of America, that people have to leave in order to feel safe, in order to feel like they're home. And I understand it because from the time I first took that breath up in the mountains a few days after I got there in 2008, it felt like home to me too, because that's where we came from. And that's what it goes back to the whole idea of human beings. We all came from exactly the same place. If you're to believe the science, which I tend to go to the scientists for these kinds of things. And so it felt like home. So I can imagine when you're worried about your child being shot in the back, or of somebody coming into your, because of the color of their skin, or coming into your elementary school because they have access to assault weapons that are used by the military, they feel safe there. And I understand it because I feel safe there. And so I can imagine how Black African Americans feel, and they express that. I mean, without any kind of reluctance. But more than that, on the really positive side was how welcoming Rwandans were to them, and that's why it means so much to me. I have family there from my first trip in 2008. I now have 3 grandchildren there, along with my Rwandan son and his wife, and they never lost touch. We never lost touch over those years. So it's a beautiful, warm place, and to my way of thinking, my experience with some studying of mysticism for the last few years, and that's kind of what I based the series on, was an article, a paragraph in Stephen Kinzer's book, 1,000 Hills, about the resurrection of Rwanda from the genocide, it being nothing less than mystical. And along with that great horrifying suffering, I've learned comes great love. And I've never seen a place that has more love per capita, except here. There's a lot of it here too. But I'm afraid we're going to lose it if we're not careful.
Yeah. Well, so the mystical journey, part 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is the article I have, one of the printouts here from the source. You mentioned this idea of people seeking home, and I just wanted to say that I thought that some of the most the way you ended the article, talking about how the children in the MindLeaps program find that it feels like family, that it really is a home, was very, very special. So I encourage everybody to check out the article and all of Shaun's articles. I just want to acknowledge that in our office here we have a picture of Ali Sibomana, who is a Rwandan young man now, who was the recipient of the 2018 Misty Copeland Scholarship when she went to Rwanda. I believe that was her second time. And has worked with MindLeaps and done some training of trainers there, training of youth, and as have many, many, many dancers, both international and local Rwandans, to build that program. And you've talked so beautifully about the program. I'll let people read it. I guess I was just curious to know if you think that some of the issues that you saw being addressed through MindLeaps in Rwanda, are any of those issues prevalent in the Virgin Islands at this time? Are some of the challenges that are being addressed through our dance program there, are any of them challenges that you face at home?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, they're different, but they still involve kids on the margins, kids that have somehow, children, young people who have missed their education, missed the boat, don't have family support. I mean, there's a lot of you have a lot of I use the word orphans gingerly relative to Rwanda, because Rwandans really take care of those children. And I learned that way back in 2008. I mean, they call them orphan centers. There weren't orphanages. You know, there's people that are fostering these young people. You know, and with Rwanda, some of it's the genocide, although the genocide was a long time ago now. But that was part of what started those orphan situations. But HIV has taken its dramatic toll on the continent. We have some of that too, but what we mostly have, and it's a dramatic story, but we have children who are orphaned because their parents, and generally their fathers, were either killed in gang, they call it group-related incidences, or they killed someone, and at any day it could be one or the other, and they're in prison. And I know that part of what you're doing in Brooklyn is working with young people who have parents in prison. And but we had a situation, and I've been, they're starting to recruit kids here in third grade, the gangs, and that's a reality. That's what I've spoke. So we're dealing with, and the other situation that we have that was so impressive about MindLeaps is that, along with all of the other things that are all of the other tracks that MindLeaps in Rwanda is on, one of them is engaging the families. And we don't really do that here. And much of it, capacity to do it is always the line. Whether that's true or not, I have no idea. I don't work for the government. But I do know that when I brought up going to see the families when children were becoming truant, that nobody wanted to hear about that. And when I saw that there's actually a social worker who is going to visit the families of the young people who you're working with, that's something we desperately need. We need to go to the homes and find out what these kids are dealing with.
Yeah.
And that's another way in which the Virgin Islands is different, because most of the people who are residents here, or original residents here, are descendants of slavery. And around slavery, there's a whole lot of secrecy, and it's a culture of secrecy. And so the whole idea of going and knocking on somebody's door, and the whole idea of opening that door, it is a big challenge. And we've tried to address it in other kinds of programs, Ceasefire being one of them that was developed out of John Jay School in New York, to address the gun violence, because our homicide rate is 10 times that of the United States per capita. So if a program, a strategy like MindLeaps can reach these young kids before they get to third grade, or as they're approaching third grade, with the love and the support and all of the things that I saw on that campus in Kigali, that we got a chance of saving a whole bunch of them and turning it around. And the problem, and here's the lovely part, this happened in how many years? 8 years in Rwanda? I mean, that's amazing. People want a quick fix, and there isn't any quick fix. When you start to address this, when these kids are entering the judicial system, it's too late. You got to get to them before that with something that matters to them. And I was saying before, I saw, and there's so much commonality between the Rwandan culture and the Virgin Islands culture relative to music and dance. And we have 3 carnivals, a different one on each island every year. It's the happiest time of the year. It's dance, it's music, it's performance. It's wonderful. And I was saying, I was in Office Max today, and I saw this child all by himself. There wasn't anybody around, just dancing to the music that was playing. It's like, yeah, right. This is it. This could happen. This could make a difference.
Yeah, it's incredible. The dance program and its appeal to young children and even to adolescents in cultures all over Africa, the Balkans. We haven't really tried the program in New York with adolescent youth, but we've worked with 6 and 7-year-olds and 8 and 9-year-olds. And we've been seeing their adherence to the program and adapting our curriculum. So we'd be excited to talk to you, Shaun, about it and about learning more about the need in the Virgin Islands. That sounds like a really phenomenal opportunity. And I just want to acknowledge that a lot of your friends from Rwanda have been signing in. I know Vidas was here earlier, and he may still be here. It's hard for me to tell, but so Shaun, if you want to say hello to everybody.
Hi, I miss you. I'll be back, I promise. You gotta come here. I want to get everybody here. And that's the thing, meeting each other. That changes everything. It takes the mystery out of the world when you see that we're all the same. We all speak the same language. It's the human language. And that's the only thing that separates us from animals, is our ability to speak to each other.
Well, thank you so much.
It can be done through art as well, and that's the thing. If anything's going to save this species, it's going to be art.
Beautiful. Well, thank you for bringing us full circle here on Moments with MindLeaps. And Shaun Pennington, we look forward to remaining in contact with you, and so does everybody in Rwanda. Thank you so much for all that you do to really raise awareness about the issues that are facing societies around the world, both in the Virgin Islands and also in Rwanda. Thank you again for being here with us and for doing it on your side on Zoom. And thanks for everybody here for being with us.
And thank you all for being here, and thank you for all the work that you've put into MindLeaps in this moment in time. I really, really appreciate it. Thank you, and thank you everybody in Rwanda. I love you. I miss you.
Thank you, Shaun.